everyone, and welcome back to Ben Talks About, the show where we talk about stuff that no one's talking about anymore, and because I feel like it. Anyway, today we're talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a subject that I have actually yet to feature on this channel. And why not start talking about them by giving you guys my rather controversial opinion on what is considered to be the worst piece of live-action turtle media, the 1993 film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Now, if you ever look up any sort of reviews on this film, whether it be on YouTube or on other websites, everyone pretty much has a universal opinion that this film is bad and possibly the worst live-action film that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have ever been in. And the reason why this opinion may be considered controversial is because I really don't think it's that bad of a movie. I mean, it may be objectively the worst film in terms of the 90s trilogy of movies, but in terms of it being a bad movie, I really don't think it's that bad. Granted, it's not necessarily perfect, as there are a lot of problems with the film, but I would think of it as kind of similar to the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, where the third film may seem like it sticks out compared to the other two, but if you really look at all three of them in a row and really think about each of them as like a continuous story, it really doesn't stick out as much as many people say it does. Now, there are of course many problems with the movie that many people talk about, but I want to make this video to give a couple of the positive elements of the movie. And now, one of the main things that people tend to complain about are, of course, the effects. Now, of course, the original production company that worked on the effects for the first two movies didn't return for this one, but if you really think about it, we probably were a bit spoiled by the effects in the first two movies, because those two films, in terms of their effects, are pretty much timeless. You know the effects on the turtles, the suits and the animatronics and all that. Those all still look really good to this day. But as for the third one, while they do definitely look a lot worse, the fact that they look the way they did, especially when you compare them to other live-action Ninja Turtles, like series or all that kind of stuff, they really don't look as awful as those. And at the very least they were using practical effects rather than CGI like the newer films. So, in terms of the effects, while they might be worse, they still aren't necessarily awful. Another thing that I think many people complain about is the setting. Of course, if you know anything about the film, you know the fact that the plot involves the turtles going through time to feudal Japan to rescue April, and then they get caught up in a situation between the Japanese and the British, and then, all those different antics ensue, and they eventually get back to the present time. And with that in mind, sure, it isn't the same sort of setting that we're used to in the other two films, but in terms of the environments on their own, they actually do look really nice. They do a good job at showing off how feudal Japan was back in the day. The environments, the buildings, the attire, the sort of like culture in general that feudal Japan had at the time was, I feel like, was done pretty well in this film. A lot of the establishing shots of the environment still look really nice. Now, the main things that I actually discovered about the third film when I actually rewatched it a while ago was one of the major themes and sort of patterns in the movie that actually sort of correlates to it being not as different from the other two movies, which is another thing that we all know about the first three live-action movies is that the one turtle that seems to get the most development out of all of them is Raphael, who, is always, portrayed as, the angsty teenager out of all of the turtles, which, was really, shown off in the first movie, but then as the movie went on, he gradually became a much more, I guess, sort of mature character. I mean, he is still Raphael, so he's always going to have some sort of angst to him. But especially in this movie here, he actually does get. This is sort of like the final part in, I guess you could say, his arc as a character, because when they eventually time travel over to Japan, well, well, first off, in the beginning of the movie, you know, he's his regular Raphael self. One of the major things that he states is the fact that they've been living in the sewers all of their lives, and they haven't been able to express themselves up in the you know, the surface. You know, ignoring the fact that at the end of the second movie they had that huge scene at the dance party with the Vanilla Ice song that everyone usually tends to make fun of. But you know, as you know, he says in the movie, you know, nobody even knows that, you know, all four of these people are actually alive over in this sewer area. You know, they've just been doing their regular, like, ninja training and all of that. And considering the fact that, you know, Shredder and basically the rest of the Foot Clan completely died off at the end of the second movie, they really haven't had that much to do up on the, you know, the surface. Which, you know, correlates with, you know, the fact that Raphael does actually want to eventually go up there and be able to be treated as like a normal person and not someone who, you know, everyone might be like afraid of or think badly of and all of that. But once they go to Japan, while they are referred to as demons at the beginning when they first go to Japan, you know, they also have, you know, that scroll that depicts all of them even before they were like during the opening part of the movie. Despite that, they actually gained the characters that like respect after rescuing their village from, you know, burning to the ground. And specifically, one specific thing I want to mention is Raphael's relationship with the child character Yoshi from the movie, who is one of the characters that gets saved from the burning building, and is a character who pretty much makes Raphael portrayed as a sort of father figure to him, because, you know, he tells Yoshi that, you know, during this whole war between, you know, the Japanese and the British and all of that, you know, he says that, you know, fighting is for grown-ups. It's something you should do only when you don't have any other choice, which is a good sort of message to give to your target audience, because, you know, these people, they're kids. They shouldn't have to worry about these sort of things happening to them, because, you know, they should be living the life of a kid. I mean, sure, it was feudal Japan, and of course times have definitely changed, but, you know, the fact that he's trying to let Yoshi, and by an extent the rest of the kids in the movie, to like not get themselves involved with this sort of war that's going on, you know, I just think that's a good way to sort of close off his arc, being like serving as this sort of father figure and wanting him to be in a society where he's actually accepted and like respected by, you know, all the people. But of course, he ends up going back to the present anyway, because, you know, he has a family back there with the rest of the turtles and Splinter and all of that. And one of the major things about the trilogy as a whole that I sort of noticed is that each of the other three turtles get individual like development in each of the movies. Like the first one, the two turtles that get the most development is Raphael and Leonardo. In the second movie, it is Raphael and to an extent Donatello. And in this movie, it is Raphael who gets the most development alongside Michelangelo, who, you know, gets you know, in that sort of romantic relationship with you know, one of the girls from Japan, which, you know, also correlates to what Raphael wanted, to be in a place where, you know, they're accepted and they could be like in the outside world and not have to be afraid of human civilization and all of that. which correlates to, but near the end of the movie, where he wants to, stay there, where, he's liked by people. But of course, like Raphael, they they both decide to go to the present because, that's where their real home is. Which is also another sort of a theme that I think the film tried to do, which is, the idea of, you might be like being somewhere, but the area where I guess you could say people should belong is where, their home is. Despite what they might think about what others think about them, there are still people in your actual home that, care about you and, want the best for you, which is of course where, they all are, and that's in that one subway area that they found at the end of the second movie, after, the Foot Clan raided their sewer home in the previous movie before that one. And I feel like these were all really, good themes that really, sort of tried its best to sort of like close off the trilogy. And, some people say that the first two films are good enough as their own and you can sort of skip the third one, but I still feel like there is a lot of merit to what the third film tried to do. Like I said, the themes of, giving, two of the turtles the most major development fits well alongside the other two movies, and, closing off Raphael's character, that was done pretty well, in my personal opinion. The environment still looked really good, and also a lot of the fight scenes still looked pretty good for being, fights where these people had to be in like these huge turtle costumes. And even alongside that, you also have all the human characters who are no longer the foot soldiers. They're actually, most of them are like wearing like samurai armor. So despite having all that stuff on them, I still think they did the fight scenes rather well, and there was a lot of variety in the fight scenes. And the fact that they played a lot of musical cues from the second movie in this one, I thought was also pretty good. So overall, like I said, while this film may be objectively the worst one out of the trilogy, I still wouldn't really consider it a bad movie. And if you're one of those people who didn't watch this movie as a kid and really, really didn't like it, especially after watching the first two, I definitely recommend that you watch it again with, with this sort of mindset. Watch the film and really think about what it tries to do, and you might be able to see a sort of light in this rather dim tunnel. Anyway, I hope this video really made at least a little bit of sense, and I really hope that you enjoyed me talking about this film. I actually had this opinion for quite a while now, and I've just been waiting for the time where I actually felt kind of confident in actually expressing my opinion on this movie. But if you all have a similar opinion to mine, or if your opinion is completely different, make sure to tell me about it in the comments section down below. I'd really love to read your opinions on it, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to do all the, the liking, the subscribing. That's all entirely up to you. But yeah, until next time, I am Ben Contreras, and bye.